So I was told to never look directly at the sun. So I did it midday. I looked directly at the sun, and this is what I saw, and this is what happened to me. When I looked up directly at the sun midday, I noticed that the center of the disk was not yellow or black or white. It was black and white, swirling. It moves. It has different patterns, oscillates. From that point of bright light and black and white central disk are ray lines that go around all the way around the sun. They're actually in these black places too, just all the way around, just like infinite number of lines. And then the sun is enveloped by a rainbow halo, all the way around. And this may not be the exact, you know, I think it starts with red and ends up like, but it's like that, and it follows those ray lines. It doesn't swirl like this. It's just my artwork, a representation of what I saw. But that's what I saw. And I don't know, if you looked at it and if you saw the same thing. But anyway, that event changed me in very profound ways to look directly at the sun. And maybe is why they tell you never to look directly at it, so that you don't change as well. Okay, there are two worlds we're living in, a man-made world and a God-made world, or creator-made world. Okay, so when you look directly at the sun, which I feel is part of the divine consciousness of the creative force, then pretty much man's universe kind of falls apart. Really, I mean, if you meditate on it, and you'll find out that, okay, so like one example, borders. Borders are imaginary, man-made. They don't exist. At best, they're a wall that human beings built. But for the most part, all borders are just imaginary lines with signs along the side of the road. So the reality of a border is it's just a sign. It's literally just a sign. And then we as human beings divide ourselves along that line for I have no idea what reason. It doesn't make any sense, and it probably doesn't make any sense to the divine consciousness either. But for some reason, I guess because we were born in this kind of system, that we see this as normal when it is not. Birds do not see borders. Animals don't see borders. They're because they don't exist. Man-made creation is obvious, but you don't really think about it. You're like, no, they're real. Borders are real. No, they're really not. You believe in. The only reason that they're real is because you believe in them, to be something that they're really not. Kind of like Santa Claus. Honestly, there's a lot of things we believe that are a lot like Santa Claus, such as Albert Einstein. He's the only person who come up with the science that did that. Just like Santa's the only person who brings the presents every night. Like a president, one president can run 370 million people in this country and be the leader of the free world. One person. That sure sounds like Santa to me. But anyway, you get in these beliefs and you don't question them because it's supposedly your reality when it may or may not be. So then I can see some truths in things. I'm not saying I'm some kind of guru or prophet. This is something anyone can do. I'm nobody special. I just meditate a lot. And I meditate with intent. And I think about things. I think about why we were told not to look at the sun. And I think I know why. Because that's, part of the divine consciousness. So let's take this a little step further. In a story I was trying to tell people, or I've told people before, many people misunderstand it or didn't hear it all out. So if you meditate, pretty soon that you will notice that that you can manifest. And if you know about meditation and manifesting, you can definitely manifest your wishes into being. You have to take action, but the universe itself is infinite, so it has infinite amount of stuff to give you. So all you have to do is think your way to get it, and the divine consciousness will definitely help you get any material thing that you want. That's not a problem. Okay, so there are some rules, um, I think, to the universe. Um, let's just start out with the very basics of chemistry, and let's talk about that first. Okay, so all the elements that have ever been made that make up you and me and everything else that you see and sit on and look at, and that is solid and tangible, was created by elements arranged in different structures, such as plastic has this, and this paper is made of wood, and whatever chemicals they put to bleach it, and wood is made of carbon, and all these things are made in stars, in the lives and deaths of stars. So when they live, they they do mass ejections, or CMEs, coronal mass ejections, or micronovas maybe. This topic been talked about, but those are elements being spewed out into the universe, and all stars are doing this, and all stars have done this. And when they supernova, or when they collapse and die, they produce heavier and heavier and heavier elements, iron and lead and all these things that make you up. Okay, so the stars assemble the ingredients at which your physical body is made of. So I'm going to separate things into very simple, a duality. This universe is kind of a duality. There's always a this thing and a that thing to counterbalance it, to make it balanced and even. Okay, so there are two parts of the universe. There's a material part, a solid part, made of all the atoms that the stars made of things, all these things, the dirt, those little plants, my sketchbook, my white rabbit, all this stuff that we can see and touch. Okay, that's created in stars, and I guess scientifically we can come up with how that's done. Okay, that's great. Okay, my next question to you is this other part of the universe, the side that doesn't have any solid material, that isn't. Oh, hocus pocus, huh? Stuff that doesn't have a weight or you can touch doesn't exist, right? Well, it does, and you know it does. Okay, so I'm going to do some examples of the other universe. There's a solid matter universe and a universe that has no matter. It's all part of the same thing, right? It has no substance, no weight that you can put on it. You can't hold it. So what are those? Well, let's talk about things that are very important that have no mass. One of them is light. Without the light from the sun, which has absolutely no mass, you couldn't see anything. So it may well not exist without the light. The light doesn't weigh anything at all. Let's just start there. Okay, so, alright, it's obvious the stars are producing light, and it doesn't weigh anything. Alright, that's not really conscious, is it? It's not really alive. Oh, wait a minute. Being alive actually doesn't weigh anything, does it? So the life force itself doesn't weigh anything. And shadows don't weigh anything, and rainbows don't weigh anything, and your thoughts don't weigh anything, and your memories don't weigh anything, and love doesn't weigh anything, and colors don't weigh anything, and hope doesn't weigh anything, hate doesn't weigh anything, gravity doesn't weigh anything, electromagnetism doesn't weigh anything. So there's a lot of important things in the universe that don't have any mass at all. Super important things, right? Heat, light, love. Now my next question to you is, why did the stars that created all of the solid stuff also create a thought in life itself? It's obvious it doesn't have to. So where does this come from? And is there a divine consciousness? Well, when you get to this point of this duality between the solid and the intangible, the esoteric and the exoteric, you will find that the esoteric is real. It's absolutely real. And all the evidence is right in front of your face all the time. I mean, shadows, light, love, it's right there. It's all there. right underneath our feet. There it is. Has no reason to make those things, except that it did. So one could conclude that the stars themselves are alive with a consciousness, because they're consciously creating the stuff that's making the life and the thoughts. Okay, so they're doing the building blocks. So are they also responsible for the life force itself? And is the life force itself, is it given by the stars? Are we one and the same? You know, you start to see these things, okay? And so you look for science, I guess, to explain some of the things. So, and in a way it does, you know, in a way it does. As above, so below. The small does work like the large. And it has a consciousness, and you can't deny it once you meditate this far. So this is kind of the story I was wanting to tell you, and it goes further, you know. So let's look at the sun for what it is. The planets are spinning around the sun, and all of these planets, their movements are dictated by the central star who created the elements, who possibly created life and thought itself. All right, and if there is, then our little planet sits in a Goldilocks zone, they call it, and it's not too hot or not too cold, so we can have water on the planet. Well, the star itself is responsible for swinging these planets into their orbits, and has put one rocky one right in the Goldilocks zone. And then we have a moon. I don't know where it came from or how it got there, but if the scientists are right, planets got swung around and it hit our Earth early on, threw stuff out. We may have had a disk and then created the moon, which created our seasons. Well, what slung that planet, that pre-planet into ours to make that moon? Well, the sun is doing that. It's spinning the planets around. So then now we have seasons here. Are we a creation? We're a creation of the sun. This is the star's artwork we're living in. You know, it's starting to become quite obvious. And so once you realize this, once you realize that that star up there has more to do with what's going on this planet than you realize, you start to respect it. Okay, so here's another thing. Not only are the star has put our planet in this Goldilocks zone that is compatible with life and slung all this stuff here and creates this. Evolution itself. So I'm just going along what scientists have said and what I've learned. So evolution itself, unless human beings are creating it by breeding animals or manipulating it with genetic therapy or whatever, but naturally it occurs between animals, and small variations to their DNA over time causes big changes in animals, and the ones that benefit stick around. Okay, so evolution of all the creatures here tend to get better and better, or better suited for the environment. Well, those small disruptions in DNA, the majority or most all of them, you know what they're caused by? You know what causes that? It's going to blow your mind. Solar radiation. Solar radiation causes the disruptions in DNA, which spurs the evolution of life on this planet. If that could give you no more further proof that the stars are creating the life, and they may be the gods that you're praying to, or the divine consciousness, or a whole system of divinely conscious beings that you are a part of, well, now you know. Now you know. Another thing that I've learned in a lot of things that I should not know that I know from meditating is that there are no such things as coincidences in the universe. Coincidence does not exist. It's not real at all. So anything that you see as a coincidence should be looked at very closely, and observed, because the coincidences are, if there's no such thing as a coincidence, then a coincidence is a message. A coincidence is a direct message. So there's a huge coincidence that occurs in our skies. Um, a total solar eclipse. Okay, so why is this significant? Like, yeah, it's neat. Causes the sun to black out in the middle of the day. It's all cool. You get to see the ring of fire and all that stuff, and it's an event and everybody gets sucked into it, But what you're looking at is the moon is placed in our sky at such a distance that it is the same size as the sun as viewed from the eyes of man on planet Earth. Okay, so the moon looks to be the exact, not a little bigger, not a little smaller, but the exact same size as the sun from our eyes on this planet. That's a huge coincidence. To me, that's the calling card of the divine conscious itself saying, I am here. How do you think your planet and life occurred on it, and all these things happened randomly without a divine consciousness pushing it forward? So, that's the story I was trying to tell you in the yard, which everybody thinks I'm crazy for. So, talking to light beings or aliens, I don't know what they are. I will tell you, when you meditate and you manifest and you learn to do this and you see the power of it, all right, good for you. But maybe you should ask the universe a question. So, you're always taught to, that's crazy, ask God a question, ask the universe a question. Well, you know what? A lot of people just pray and they want good things for people, and that's good, and it's all selfless and it's all good. It's not a bad thing. You should do that. But nobody thinks to ask a direct question. And what happens when you do get in a meditative state and ask a very direct question to the divine consciousness of the universe? Do you think it responds? Well, let me tell you what happened to me when I asked the universe a question, and what question I asked and what happened. And you can believe me or you can not believe me. I don't care. I was told to share this story by the divine conscious itself. So I have no problem in telling it, and I have no problem with what you think about it. I've had people respond with, I've had similar things happen to me, and I've had people say that that's absolutely nuts. But those are from the eyes of man, and man are flawed. So I'm flawed, and this is my story, and it happened to me. So what did I ask the divine consciousness? So I was going through a pretty rough time, and I just was asking the universe for peace and freedom to end these wars that we have on each other, and peace and freedom for all the people. And I would meditate this, and then one night I asked the question, I meditate and I see that things manifest. I get it. But are you really there? Can you prove to me, divine consciousness, that you are there? Prove it. I asked a direct question. I gave the divine conscious a very direct order. Prove to me that you exist. And I looked up into the sky, and at that moment that the thought crossed my mind, and asked the universe to prove, the divine consciousness to prove it exists. When I looked in the sky, there was a slash of light that went all the way across the night sky. And I was like, oh, that was a coincidence. Coincidentally, I just asked this question, and it looked like a shooting star just went over my head. That's crazy. Wow, what a coincidence. Because at this point, I don't know all these things yet. I'm just asking questions. So I was like, well, then that's just a wild coincidence. So I asked it again. And I said, now that could be just a coincidence. I happened to look in the sky after I asked this question and happened to see a shooting star. Hey, it could happen, right? It's a coincidence. That's not enough proof for me that the divine consciousness exists. I need you to prove to me. I want proof that you exist. Show me you exist. I looked in the sky, and again, another slash of light went all the way across the sky. Okay. Then I fell down to my knees. And I was like, oh. Alright, so I'm kind of convinced at this point, but not exactly, because it is strange, and telling this story would be, weird to anybody. So, for 2 weeks straight, from 14 nights in a row, I went out into the backyard, and I asked the same question to the stars. And 14 nights in a row, every single time I asked, a slash of light broke the sky. Every single night for 14 nights in a row. This is not a lie. This is not made up. This is not a story. I'm standing with my daughter in the backyard trying to tell her the story and how your thoughts are powerful, and there's a part of the universe that you're connected to that you're not aware of that's super powerful, that can really help you out, that's really here for you, that created all this for you. And I guess she was so busy thinking I was crazy or listening or just overwhelmed with the situation, but she stops me. She says, Mom, they're shooting stars behind your head. As I was telling her this in the yard. And if my daughter happens to come and listen to my video here, which I bet at some point some people come around and come look, that she's going to remember that night in the yard. She's going to remember those crazy things I was telling her. And she's going to remember seeing those shooting stars behind my head. Now let me explain to you another thing about where I live. I live in a populated city. It's a suburb of downtown Dallas. It's called Garland. The light pollution here is pretty bad. Dallas is, I guess, about 15 miles away. They're heavy. There's a huge 635 highway right nearby. The light pollution is very bad here. You can barely see, on the clearest nights, you can barely see maybe a dozen stars in the sky from my backyard because of the light pollution and pollution in general. How I saw shooting stars for 14 nights in a row on the demand of asking the universe to prove itself to me, how this happens and how I see this is beyond my comprehension. It was enough to let me know that, for sure, there is no doubt in my mind the divine consciousness of this universe exists. You can ask it questions, it does respond, and it will lead you down the path. So when you ask questions, you have to listen. You have to close your own thoughts. Shut it down in your meditation. Like, literally think of nothing until you see that eye behind your eyelids. When you've got your eyelids closed and you block out every single word and thought that you possibly can and calm your brain down to nothing, thinking of nothing but being and breathing, there you will find it. There, when you ask a question and you clear your mind and you ask that question, you listen for that answer to come into your mind and you remember what that answer is. I'm not a special person. I'm not claiming to be a Jesus figure. I'm not claiming to be anything, an enlightened individual, whatever. This happened to me, and these changes happened to me, and I can't change back. It doesn't go back. Once you know, you know. So, now the messages that you will get from the divine consciousness often don't make a lot of sense. They really don't, until later. You just kind of have to trust what you're told and take it very literally. Take it for as it's worth, because this divine consciousness, when you ask it a question, it will deliver you the truth and nothing else. And may be difficult to understand. So one of the things I was told was to tell the story about the divine consciousness and the sun, and the feeling that I get. You know, I went down on my knees in that yard. I did. I was humbled. So I told it. Why are you, why do I get these messages? I am no one special. And it said to me, no, there's where you're wrong. Don't you know I created all this for you? Just for you. You think your mom and dad love you? Just wait till you meet the divine consciousness and the efforts, the 14 billion years of efforts that these stars and galaxies have done to create us in this life, in this moment right now, is immense. You are loved beyond belief, whoever you are. And I guess that's, since I am breaking down into emotional states right now, I guess I'm going to end this and leave it there. I would like to find others who have had some kind of sun conscious experience, or star conscious experience, or come to some of these realizations, or these messages that come to them. And I'll be sharing a few of these as I go along, because some of them pertain to everyone, and then some of them only pertain to me. And this is my relationship with the universal divine consciousness that we're all connected to. The solar wind, is blowing, and it causes the auroras, and something is coming in at the poles of our planet, and we can clearly see that. What if we're, just sending and receiving messages through that kind of force? Like, it's all connected. Like, you're a bigger part of this than you realize. I know it, and I'm just going to share the information as it comes to me. Have a good day. Namaste.